The time, 17 minutes to 9. The Prime Minister told the Telegraph this morning that the gender pay gap is an injustice, one of the burning injustices that mar our society. Equality for women is a right, and she tells us we should rid ourselves of outdated gender stereotypes. Not everyone is impressed, though. Some, of course, say the government hasn't gone far enough to tackle unequal pay. The average pay gap figures for big businesses have to be published by the end of today, but that's not nearly enough. Others say she's barking up the wrong tree. The figures measure aggregate pay. It simply reflects that more women take time out to have children, etc. The psychologist Jordon has made quite a splash in recent times, challenging gender pay complaints. I asked him what the counter-argument was to the points the Prime Minister was making this morning.
Well, the counter-argument is to be a little bit more sophisticated in your statistics. These broad-based comparisons of gender and salary are not sufficiently sophisticated to capture the variability in the data, not by any stretch of the imagination. You'd fail a first-year social science student for producing a project like that.
I think what the Prime Minister would say is that, yes, she understands that these are very broad sets of data, but what they describe is an experience where women going to work are in places where they're paid less, they are in atmospheres where they're paid less. Their experience of life isn't as fair and equal as it should be.
Yeah, well, when I look at something like that, I like to look at the facts and not to look at arguments about how people feel about what's happening. First of all, there's elementary reasons why men are paid more than women. For example, the first thing you'd look at if you were a statistician is the median salary the same? Because a few highly paid men can skew the data tremendously, and most of the people who make a tremendous amount of money are a small minority of men. And that doesn't necessarily indicate any prejudice whatsoever against women. It just means that the people who are most likely to work exceptionally long hours and to occupy positions that require a tremendous sacrifice in terms of personal life are almost always men.
But then maybe one of the answers there, on that then, one of the answers might be, and I'm not sure the Prime Minister would disagree with that, but she would say, well, let's do something about it. Let's make those top jobs different if we need to, so that women are more attracted to going into them.
You can't make those top jobs more attractive because they require a certain set of skills that aren't transferable. So, for example, if you're going to occupy a top executive position, you have to be willing to work something in the neighborhood of 80 hours a week. That's all you ever do. That's your life. And that's the price you pay for running something that's incredibly competitive and demanding. And so there's only a small number of people who are willing to do that, and those are generally men. And there's all sorts of other issues that drive men in the workplace to earn more money. So, for example, men work longer hours. And so if you work 44 hours a week, you make twice as much money as someone who works 34 hours a week. So we're going to do the stats to see who works longer hours. We know that male doctors work far longer hours than female doctors, for example. Now, there's reasons for that. The general reason is that women have more duties on the childcare front, but no one's figured out how to monetize that. Men are more likely to move to work. Men are more likely to do dangerous jobs. Men are more likely to go into STEM fields. And in executive positions, they're more likely to take positions like sales, where the pay is higher than positions like human resources. To analyze pay by gender is a completely inappropriate statistical analysis.
But you describe all those things. You describe all those things as if they're a given. They just have to be because of differences between men and women. They don't have to be, do they? And that's the point the Prime Minister's making.
No, the point that she's making fundamentally is that there's some evidence that women taken globally earn less than men taken globally if you do the statistics badly, and that indicates that society is unfair. And it's not a reasonable point. You can't make a case that there's a gender gap when you do the statistics badly.
I understand that, but a lot of people listening might be saying, hang on a second, I experience in my own life again and again, from being told at school that you're not going to be as good at maths through to all the things that happen to you during your life. Again and again, as a woman, I'm told, and I live an experience where I have fewer opportunities. And then I look at the gender pay gap, and it does exist on aggregate, and I think, well, that's another thing that holds me down.
Look, if people want to use bad information to generate social policies that are going to be problematic, that's up to them. But it's going to cause a tremendous amount of trouble, because the reality of the situation is that you can't take a complex multifactorial phenomena like wage differential and reduce it to a single variable, no matter how much you want to or how much it makes you feel good.
Jordan Peterson, thank you very much.
12 minutes.